Hey guys, welcome back. If you guys have read the title, you know exactly what this video is about. This is a gun that I know a lot of people have been really dying to see. It's pretty new. It's kind of barely even on the market right now. This is the Arcturus AK12. I'll tell you, this is a gun I've been really looking forward to checking out. I'm impressed. Just getting out of the box, I was really surprised by the feel. This is actually the exact gun that was at SHOT Show 2020. They shipped it over to me to check out, and dang, Arcturus, I really appreciate it. This thing rocks. The gun really doesn't come with a whole lot. This was kind of a sample gun, as best I can tell. It doesn't come with an instruction manual. It didn't come with a high cap mag. This came with a mid cap, one of the variable ones, so I'll show this off, and a cleaning rod. Now, normally I believe the gun's going to come with instructions. Usually a mid cap like this and a high capacity magazine, with probably a winding wheel would be my best guess. But being kind of a demo gun, this was more bare bones, didn't have a whole lot with it. But the mid cap magazine is actually really cool. It's a variable magazine, so it'll hold either 30 or 120 rounds. You can actually access it really easily. Just take the bottom plate off and push it out. And there's a little switch here. And if you switch it like that, it goes to 30 rounds. If you switch it back, it goes to 120. So if you want, you can have a real capacity magazine on your gun. It already comes with it. We'll start from the back of the gun and work our way forward. The back does have a rubberized kind of almost ribbed texture on the butt plate, so it grips the shoulder rather nice. This one's got a little bit of a wobbly back. I'm pretty sure it's been handled a little bit from being at SHOT Show. It does have a retractable stock, so you can retract it out pretty far, and it is canted just a little bit like the body, so it lines up rather nicely. On either side of the stock are two quick detach sling points. It doesn't come with these sling points themselves, but those are of course purchasable aftermarket. I think one of the more neat features about the gun is it does have a built-in folding stock. There's a button on the left side here. I can go ahead and press that, and it actually locks into place via a small little mechanism in the back. If you want to unfold your stock, simply press down on the little switch in the back. You can fold it back. Moving up the gun a little bit, we do have the selector lever. It does have a finger shelf here, so I can actually, for the most part, pretty easily adjust it with my index finger. It's still fairly tight. It's got some breaking in to do, or I can actually loosen the screw a bit. It does have 4 selector positions, just like the real firearm. It does have safe, full auto, 2-round burst, and semi. Unfortunately, the 2-round burst shoots full auto right now, so it doesn't have a mechanism internally for shoot 2-round burst. The pistol grip on this gun is rather unique. It kind of reminds me a little bit of a G2 grip. The buttons on the side don't work, they're built in. But it is fairly comfortable. It's a rather smooth plastic, it really doesn't have a whole lot of texturing, but it's kind of grown on me. I'm not a fan of the way it looks, but I rather enjoy the way it feels. You do have a Picatinny rail that goes along the entire length of the gun for the most part on top. It is separated a little bit here between the handguard and the top of the metal cover here, but that's not really much of a downside. The rear sight is adjustable for both windage and elevation, which is rather nice. It's down, have a standard elevation there, and then there's a little notch you can actually pull out and adjust your windage on the rear sight itself. The front sight, nothing really special. It's going to be adjustable strictly for elevation, which you've already got that on the rear one, so there you go. The rear sight is removable. There's a small grub screw here that holds it in place. If you want, you can remove it, but it's low profile enough. I don't think it's going to get in the way of too many optics. Your hop up is of course in the same place as any other AK. This one's a little bit of a rougher pull, and it only pulls back about 1.5 inches, or compared to other AKs, other Arcturus AKs, it doesn't quite pull back as far. You've got your little hop up dial in here. You can push it forward for less hop and pull it back for more hop. The battery install on this gun is a little bit unique. There's a lever here, and this was really, really tight when I first got it. You have to pull it up and pull it to the right just a little bit. The top cover is going to pull back and then pull up. So you've got all the space here, and then a whole huge area up in here where the gas tube is for your battery. Notice there's not a lot of height, but a lot of length. So some of my 11-1s wouldn't quite fit in here, but 7.4s and longer stick type batteries didn't have a problem at all. While the stock is folded and the top cover is pulled back, we do have access to the quick change spring system here. It's actually a little cap that you have to unscrew, and then you have access to your spring guide. So really simple to swap your spring out on the fly if you need to. Now, the gun originally came with a Tamiya connector. I went ahead and installed the Deans on here because everything I have is Deans. It just makes my life a whole lot easier. Replacing the top cover is just the reverse of that procedure. I'm going to put it down, I give it a tap. It's a little easier that way. I'm going to push this in, put that dial down so everything stays nicely in place. The handguard on the gun is rather unique. It's a relatively smooth plastic, not a whole lot of texture there either, but it does have rails on all four sides. The bottom, the top, left and the right. Left and right, not everything is going to fit on there. I tried putting a flashlight on either side, and because of the tightening notch or tightening clamp on there, it wouldn't quite fit, which is a little unfortunate. You can, of course, if you really want to, like Dremel some of this down, but I wouldn't want to. It's actually really comfortable. It feels really good in the hand. Can't really complain at all. Just under the gas block here is a small sling attachment point. It does kind of move freely, so it can make some noise, but not a whole lot. It is nice having a little sling point here too. And I think what a lot of people are really interested in is the flash hider here. It is very aggressive and rather large. It does kind of have almost a window or door breaching look to it. I really like it personally. It does have 14mm negative threading under here. It's really simple to take it off. Just take a screwdriver and push the little pin inward. Simply rotate the flash hider and take it off. Under there is a small adapter piece. You can unscrew that, and under there is your threading. Arcturus guns, I've noticed, are a little picky about the magazines they take. So I've got a few magazines here. We're just going to try them. First is a Cyma. It's kind of a cheaper, like an AK-74 mag. It fits, it's kind of wobbly, but it works just fine. These are really inexpensive. You can find them just about anywhere. Next magazine is a Lonnex Flash Mag. This fits. And it's pretty tight in there, it doesn't really wobble at all. But the lock doesn't fully engage, so it works, but just barely. Lastly, I think this is worth mentioning. The other Arcturus mags will work just fine in this, and this fits incredibly well. It actually fits a little bit better than the original mag for the gun. Fits just as well, just a little bit less wobble. So Arcturus mags are all going to work across the board. All right, let's go ahead and open the gun up on the tech table and see what the internals are like. The internals of the AK-12 will be really similar to the other AK offerings from Arcturus. Minor differences, definitely some revisions, some improvements, and some other things have stayed the same, but for the most part, very similar. There are some minor differences with the hop-up chamber. The polish is a bit better on it. It's not quite as rough on the outside, so it actually does have a bit of sheen to it. Aside from that, the chamber itself has not changed at all. The barrel is still their 601, roughly. It's supposed to be plus or minus 0.1, so it could be anywhere from 6.00 to 6.02. Most websites are going to advertise it at 6.02 to kind of show the maximum bore it can be. The bucking does have sort of a V or H profile to it, however you want to describe it, so it could result in slightly better left to right accuracy, which I really do appreciate. The barrel is a bit shorter than your standard AK barrels. It's 430 millimeters, give or take about a millimeter or so from my wonderful yardstick over there that I had to convert from inches to millimeters with. It is a really nice solid steel, but I did have to give it a pretty thorough cleaning. There was a good bit of dirt inside of it. Finally, the hop-up chamber does have a rather large spring on the front of it, keeping it really nice and tight against the front of the gearbox. The motor hasn't changed at all from previous AK offerings either. It is your standard motor. It gets roughly about 12 rounds a second, so nothing too special, but it is a pretty modest rate of fire, and I notice it's actually performing pretty well, just like the other AK motors. It does have a D-type pinion, so pinions are pretty easy to replace if need be. The gearbox shell actually has radius ports on the cylinder on both the front and back, so that's a definite plus. On the opposite side here, you can see the little nub that actually sticks out right next to the trigger and allows you to detension the gearbox. This pushes down on the anti-reversal latch and allows the gears to spin backwards and relieve tension from the spring. We can also see externally that 8mm bushings and bearings are used, a combination of both. On top there is a cutout, and I've always wondered if Arcturus had possibly thought about implementing a blowback system. I'm not the biggest fan of blowback, but it would be an interesting thing to explore. I've taken the spring and spring guide out the back of the gearbox. It is a quick change system, which is rather nice. The ball bearing spring guide is all metal, really nice heavy steel. The spring on this particular one is rather soft. I'm guessing it's probably like an M90 or M100 somewhere in there. It really doesn't shoot too hot. Now we can go ahead and open up the gearbox. It's a little tight. I'm pretty sure it's the first time this is being opened. You can see offhand it's actually rather well greased all around. I'm gonna go ahead and take out the compression component so we can check out the mechanical stuff. And of course I like to retain the shimming because Arcturus tends to do a pretty good job on their shimming, which I can really appreciate about them. I've gone ahead and removed the micro switch here. It's pretty standard and also comes with the 16 gauge low resistance wiring, which is a nice bonus. The shimming on the gears were actually fairly good. I did have to move the bevel gear down a little bit. It was raised a bit too high, and therefore I had to move the sector and spur gear down a bit more too. Finally, we can look at the compression system. Tappet plate is pretty average. Really nothing terribly special. Mildly flexible, just enough. The compression is good. Not quite perfect, but pretty good. It's about as close as we're going to get to perfect without it being perfect. The nozzle is your standard polycarb or nylon there, it looks like. O-ring in there, which is an upgrade from previous models, if I'm not mistaken. Piston head is ported and has bearings in there, which is nice. All steel tooth rack. Second to last tooth removed, which makes correcting your angle of engagement a little easier, so you don't have to shave down that entire other tooth there. Little speed cuts in the rails there for the piston. Cylinder is type 0, no ports in it. Cylinder head, it's pretty standard, just your regular polycarb with one O-ring there. My thoughts on the Arcturus AK12 are extremely positive. The build quality is fantastic. I really can't complain. And I'm guessing this is not any kind of insider info. It's just kind of an educated guess from what I've seen based on the market right now. I would guess that these are probably going to come in the US around $300 or so, which is fantastic for what you're getting. You're getting a really great barrel, fairly good internals that really you don't need to do any work to if you don't want to. The thing shoots extremely well. My best guess would be this is probably like a China model or an overseas model of some kind. That's why it was shooting a little bit softer. Normally when these hit the US, they're probably going to be shooting that 380, 390. At least in my experience, it's, like I said, not any kind of insider info at all. So I'm really looking forward to these hitting the US, hopefully soon, but with everything going on with this blasted virus, really God knows. So we'll see what happens there. But overall, I'm very impressed with it. I'm going to give this a 9 out of 10. I think because so few companies are making the AK12 model right now, if this can hit the market pretty soon, I'd be pretty sure it'd be a fairly popular model, especially for that price point that I'm pretty sure it'll hit the market around. So 9 out of 10. They did a really good job on it. I'm very impressed. Thanks for watching, guys. I'm Prodigy from Airsoft Team Kilo 23. I hope you guys stay safe and stay healthy, and I will see you guys in the next review.